Hello and welcome to Attacking Third, a CBS Sports Soccer podcast. I'm Sandra, Herrera, lead NWSL writer for CBS Sports. Joined today, as always, by my colleague and co-host Lisa Roman, broadcaster and analyst for CBS Sports. On today's episode, we have a special guest interview today. But before we get into everything, quick reminder to vote for us in the People's Choice Podcast Awards for Best Female Hosted Podcast. And you can find the voting link in our description. Thanks so much. It really helps us out. Our special guest interview today is someone who's been with FIFA Pro, MLS, and United Soccer's coaches, executive for first professional business mogul, first ever president of USL Super League, Amanda Vandervort. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're so happy to have you on here because you are someone who has been so busy. Lisa and I had talked a lot this month in July about how much energy there is around this sort of summer of soccer right now. And you're one of these people that we noticed who have just sort of been in like all over the place when it comes to USL specifically. And you're coming off of very exciting championship final for the USL W League between Minnesota and Aurora. Between Minnesota Aurora FC and South Georgia Tormenta FC, and needed some extra time to get settled out. Kind of just sort of felt like very, very like a momentous occasion. First championship for this pre-professional league. Talk to us about sort of the event and how everything sort of played out there.
Oh, what a game it was. We were in the Twin Cities in Minnesota for Minnesota Aurora hosting South Georgia Tormenta FC, and South Georgia Tormenta won. They won 2-1 in the second period of overtime, which was as you might imagine, very thrilling of a finish. It was sold out. We had 6,500 fans in the stands. So it was rocking. The supporters group was singing the whole time. We had flags waving. It was super cool, the environment, to see what that club's built and kind of how the W League has really come to life here in our first season was super special. Leading up to that, that was our 261st game of the summer. We have 44 teams in 7 divisions across the country, over 1,500 players in the league. So to kind of culminate in that moment, in that stadium, with those fans and with those incredible players, it was such a special moment on Saturday night.
I mean, so thrilling. Extra time, the inaugural season, inaugural champion. It is huge, but that was the W League. You're the president of the Super League. USL is this entire universe, essentially, of soccer. Can you break down what is the current USL pathway for women in the sport, just for our listeners out there that are just dipping their toe into the USL waters?
Yeah. And, it's interesting. I mean, I've worked as in Sandra's lead-in, like I've worked across the game for a lot of years, right? I was at Major League Soccer for 10 years. I was in Europe running the Global Players Union for women called FIFA Pro. I helped launch WPS back in 2008. I was a coach, a college coach, and a player before that, right? So I've seen the game across so many different perspectives. So I came to the USL almost a year ago now with this vision to really bring the USL, which has had for a long time in the men's game, right? They've had Division II professional league, Division III pro league, and then pre-professional space, an academy. So there's an entire pathway on the boys to men's side here at the USL. And we decided to invest in creating that same pathway on the women's side. So that's what brought me here. So yeah, my title is the president of the USL Super League, which will be our professional property, which kicks off next year, late August 2023, right after the Women's World Cup. So we can kind of have that great lead in, and then boom, we kick off our season. So that's late August 2023. We have the W League, which we've launched this year, as I just described. So that's our pre-professional property, made up of all amateur players who, most of them, I would say, are playing in the college season. This gives them a summer place where they can play really elite level with high standards, during their summer months. And then in the near future, you'll see us, working towards our academy as well. So there's the entire process from, youth to pro within a pathway. And that just hasn't existed before in this way. So it creates opportunities for girls and women all through kind of their life cycle of being a player. And I'll add, Lisa, one thing to add too, is we think a lot about not just the player pathway, but also the executive pathway, the coach pathway, the workers in and around women's soccer, the people who want to be involved in this amazing game that just haven't had the opportunity before. That's part of our ethos, is creating that opportunity for women in sport and in soccer.
I want to follow up on it a little bit with you, Amanda, because you just were named first ever president of USL Super League in October. So I feel like it's been a while. It hasn't even been a full year. So it's a wild 9 months in terms of your first year at work. Can you maybe chat with us a little bit about how this first 9 months has been for you? And as you're looking ahead to sort of actually meeting that 1 year anniversary, reflect on maybe some of the things that you're like really proud of, and maybe some other things that you perhaps want to work on moving forward.
Well, yeah, I said 1 year a minute ago, didn't I? You just that 9 months. I feel like it's been 9 years. I think I think it's been 1 year, and each of those 30 days is how I feel, because it moves fast. It really has moved fast. I mean, starting with being so proud of the W League. I mean, really how, you sign up these 44 teams and you don't know what the level of play is, ultimately going to look like. And to get the spectacle that we did Saturday night, but all throughout the year, for me has been just a really proud moment. So yeah, from when we started till now, I mean, it's been intense. It's been visionary. I think it's in terms of like having conversations about what does a pathway model look like? What can the future of women's soccer in this country look like? How do we reimagine the standards and systems by which we operate so that they support, they support players in that journey in a really authentic manner, in the way that players, want and need and deserve. But coaches and executives too. So we have a lot of those conversations, but rooted in the organization that exists too. So the USL is, USL is wild. It's huge actually. And I hadn't really been too deep a part of it until I came into this organization. I got to know it through my local team in Tucson, FC Tucson. It's my hometown. And I really got to know the organization, and seeing that FC Tucson plays in League One, which is our third division, but our second division professional league, and see how that all operated, and understand the infrastructure at the USL. Like, we have a league office of 100 people, right? And we're on this path to growth here. So really getting a sense of like how we already have this full operation. So 100 people at the league office, you've got all these professional clubs with stadium developments going on across this country. Like I think we've got 29 potential stadium projects going on across the country with our ownership groups. And it's incredible. So I think my first 9 months, to sum up this soliloquy, I think my first 9 months have been getting my arms around the incredible infrastructure that already is in place, and then how do we use that to inspire the organization, inspire the future of women's soccer, and give us some leverage to do it in a really professional manner.
Amanda, as you've really wrapped your arms around that infrastructure and gotten a feel for not only the business side of it, but right, you mentioned the stadiums, traveling to different stadiums, seeing these players, the coaches, the fans that come out. The USL Super League set to start at the end of August of 2023. What are your goals or your vision for the very first season of the Super League?
Yeah, the first season, listen, I come from, professional soccer background. I come from the player union movement. I want to create a league where players want to play, coaches want to coach, partners want to invest, and we can really get behind this, this movement in the country. You know, if we have 10 to 12 teams across this country in communities that haven't had access to women's professional soccer before, so igniting and inspiring fans too to really like lean into this movement and recognize that there is professional soccer in their hometown. So yeah, I'm excited about you know, about what all that means, and really seeing it come to life and having a top-notch, you know, professional league for these women to play in.
You know, I think that's for me as someone who just sort of, you know, watches all of this, like 12 hours of soccer a day, right? That's, I think, my most favorite part. I think about USL is just sort of this concept that it expands all across the United States, that there's many towns and cities that you can find like a level of professional soccer. I mean, and maybe this is sort of a 101 type of question, but I'd like to bring it on to the show for people who are curious about it. But when you're looking at the landscape of USL W League, we're talking over 40 teams, and then looking at the future a little bit to the Super League. What's the sort of the landscape how that's going to look? What's the goal for teams, the start, you know, the kickoff, how can people attend games? I know USL has a ESPN deal. Is the ambition there to announce a broadcast deal as well? Things like that. Let our listeners know what to be excited about.
There's a lot of questions in there, and there's a lot to be excited about. So let me start with the 10 to 12 teams across the country. We haven't announced the venues yet, so I look forward to doing that with you guys, you know, in the near future. We're on the international calendar. So we'll be playing from August to June with a winter break and a summer break. We think that's really important, both for the players and the players to be able to select, you know, their national team competitions in the summer, between the Olympics, the World Cup, the regional tournaments. You guys know there's for the top, you know, the top pros to be able to go play internationally during those windows is something we feel really strongly about. And also having a mid-year break. So being able to take, you know, the December, January period off for players to kind of refresh and get ready for the second half of the season. So we'll be on the international calendar, which is, you know, a big deal for the fans, because we believe that means the fans are going to have access to their top players for more of a higher percentage of the season, right? So so the international calendar was a big deal for us, and you know, we're the first league to do it. So I think that demonstrates our commitment to the player needs, and also to the fans and their, you know, what they're looking for. So yeah, we'll be on the international calendar, 10 to 12 markets, 2023. Let's see. What am I missing? Yeah, I mean, we're working on broadcast. We're working on media at the moment. We've got where am I missing? I think the biggest thing to kind of describe is the sustainability. So as we're building our clubs, as we're building the league, what we're really looking at is, of course, 2023, right? And like, what does that look like? But what's the long-term sustainability and the business needs that go into building a professional league? And those are all the things we're working on right now.
For women that are young girls, maybe that are playing in high school, they're playing collegiately, and they want to take that next step and continue playing, whether it's throughout college or even after playing collegiately, what is the ideal pathway for a player that wants to get into the W League or into the Super League looking forward?
Oh, I love that you used the word. Oh, am I frozen? Can you hear me? One of us is frozen.
We can hear you.
Okay. Well, I love that you use the word ideal, because actually I'm going to counteract that there is no ideal pathway. But what we're doing is introducing choice in that pathway, right? So you may play college soccer and then play in the W League, you know, in the summer. You may play college soccer and go straight to the pros. And we're creating that opportunity as well. So you might go straight from high school to the pros. You know, we don't know. And today, the aspiration is the college game. And so we wanted to make sure that we support that. We work with college coaches, work with players that are playing, you know, at the collegiate game, so they have that W League pathway. But you know, if they want to go pro, the Super League will be a great place for them.
So soccer, you mentioned this at the start of this conversation. It's been such a big part of your life, from playing collegiately to being the head coach at NYU, then switching to the administrative business professional side of things. How did you make that transition from the player coach side of things now to the business administrative executive side of the game?
Yeah, it's hard. I think at that point I was the coach at NYU until 2007, and I left after that season. I knew that I didn't want to be on the field every day. Like I love soccer. I love it with all my heart. I'm a soccer lifer, right? But I knew that coaching, as much as I loved the relationships I built with players, I loved recruiting, I loved all that stuff, I knew that the on-field X's and O's like wasn't my path in the game. So I left. I genuinely moved to San Francisco, and I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. And it was around that time, 2008, I met the people who were starting up WPS, and started having conversations with them about how we can use media, social media in particular, as a direct to consumer method of growth. So I started talking with people like Marcia McDermott and Peter Wilt and Tanya Antonucci back in, 2008 about like, okay, how can we use Twitter? I mean, it was just it was a glimmer in our eyes at that point about how Twitter could be, powerful for the future of women's sport in particular. And that's really where I cut my teeth in the pro game, was the first 2008 U.S. women's national team player allocation to WPS. We live tweeted it. We didn't know who was going to watch it. It was going to tune in, listen. We didn't know. We were like, well, let's try it, because the media isn't picking this up and newspapers don't want to write about it. So let's try this Twitter thing, And my career kind of followed the growth of soccer Twitter, I think, along the way. So I was at WPS 2008 to 2010-ish. And then I was recruited into MLS to help them launch their social media strategy, and then kind of grew into the area of fan engagement. So for me, it was a passion. It was, how do we get more people? I want soccer to be successful. So what's my role in that? And I just believed in the power of social media. And so I saw this pathway. So my career really grew in direct consumer marketing, like how to reach people through sport. And that's how it evolved. And that's really how my transition from, coaching to administration and management came about.
I love that. I love having conversations with folks like yourself, Amanda, who sort of had the background and experience of a former player, but with you also have the added layers of coaching and now being a sport executive. And especially now in this timeline where we're all in 2022, and it sort of just feels like this very kind of, I won't say groundbreaking, but maybe breakthrough type of year for women's soccer. I mean, we're on here talking to you about USL W League, USL Super League, right in the middle of a very exciting time for international women's soccer. So a couple of questions I'd love to have, because I'd love to get your perspective on this as well, because you've someone who's been in the game for a very, very long time, and I would love to get your perspective on it. But one of the big things going into 2022 is we had some pretty historic things happen. We had a couple collective, remarkable landmark type of CBA deals, one for the United States women's national team, one for the NWSL as well. Could you just sort of maybe give me your perspectives and sort of watching that kind of come to fruition as someone who's, been around as long as you have been?
Yeah, I mean, what a tremendous moment for the players on both the national team front, the NWSL, and congratulations to everyone for getting those done. We just at USL, we just completed our men's championship CBA in November, and are working towards on the men's side as well. So I think my role at FIFPro probably is what gives me the most context related to this. I left MLS in 2019. I knew I wanted to be back in the women's game, and I wanted to be in international soccer. So to be honest, it was kind of like what I just described when I left coaching. I kind of just was like, all right, where do I want to be? So I packed a bag. I got an Airbnb in Paris for the summer, and got to know, I worked for FIFA for a week. I helped with one of their events, but wasn't really sure what my next step was. But I knew, and this is the advice I always give to people: be in the space where you want to work, and you'll find your people. You'll find your role. So I met the people at FIFPro, the Global Players Union, out of Amsterdam, and they offered me the chief women's football officer job. So I moved there, and in doing that role, I really got to see the player movement across around the world, right? I was really involved in a couple cases where the women, not only, listen, everything from abuse to just fundamental rights not being acknowledged, to CBA negotiations at a national federation level. So I think I saw it across the gamut. And for me to come in here now into a league and be able to set standards from the beginning is I feel a place of special privilege for myself to be able to do that, but also hopefully we can create an environment and an atmosphere where the players have that respect from the beginning.
I love that. I think we should actually close out on that, quite frankly. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us today and chatting a little bit about yourself and in your role in this big picture of women's soccer in the United States, talking about USL, W League, and Super League. I know we're going to have you on again as we get closer and closer to that kickoff. And we also like to take the time to thank all our listeners towards the end of the episode. So thank you, everybody, for listening. And honestly, if you have more questions, let us know so we can invite Amanda back on and ask her some more questions. So thanks, everybody, for joining along. Follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram at Attacking Third for more. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and anywhere you listen to your shows. We're also available as video. Subscribe at youtube.com/Attacking Third. And we'll be back this week with so much more. For Sandra, Herrera, Lisa Roman, and Amanda Vandervort, this was Attacking Third.